Could Facebook split itself up? Should it? You can log into the personal side if you want. You can choose the political, commercial side if you want. Is this even close to feasible, economically or technologically or legally? It's complicated. So I chatted with Joel Griffith. He is a lawyer and finance expert with a conservative-leaning Heritage Foundation. Could we apply to social media what we've seen with the government with the Volcker Rule?
I would make the argument that the Volcker Rule is both unnecessary, is needless, with needless regulation, because all investments are risky investments, and by not allowing a bank to do those investments on their own, you're limiting what they can actually be involved in. It actually could increase the risk they undertake. But that's the basic concept, ensuring that financial institutions, they're going to choose one of those two businesses to be involved with. So similarly with Facebook, instituting a Volcker Rule would say, look, you can either engage in data analytics and data gathering, or you can be a more of a news media platform.
As we see with Facebook today, let's say, that they're able to say, we bring people together, but they're also able to gather a bunch of money, sell off your data, and actually introduce a lot of questions into things like elections. And so that seems legitimate, maybe, that someone would step in and say, hey guys, break it up.
Yes, if you're using Facebook, Facebook is making an enormous amount of money off of the data they're collecting. If you look at the financials from last year, revenue was at roughly $42 billion. It's a lot of money. But I would say look at where that money went. About $8 billion of that went to research and development. The fact that Facebook is collecting our data, and that's with our permission, a lot of that revenue goes into developing even more innovation. So I think there's this question of, if this were to be a voluntary segmentation of the Facebook business model, would that R&D, would that continue at the pace that it's been set at now?
I wonder, from a private business aspect, do you think it would be smart for Facebook to say, we're going to proactively try to split apart these two things because we know that we're losing the younger demographic?
If there were ways to explore, at least allowing us as consumers to opt out of certain updates, or of even receiving news updates on that site, that could possibly stem the exodus from the platform. I think it's something that's been very troubling, that over the last few years, we've seen both on the left and the right a lack of understanding or respect for our First Amendment. You see this happening at universities where speakers, and this is often speakers on the right, are not welcomed or are threatened or denied access. But then on the right side of the aisle, we see so many calls for forcing Facebook or Twitter to be bias neutral, to provide this equal access to a platform. And what we need to keep in mind, that the First Amendment is there to protect us from the government intruding on our freedom of speech, our freedom of expression, our freedom of association. A private enterprise, a private media company, a private media platform, they have every right to censor us for any reason whatsoever. Now, I don't like that. I'd prefer that they don't act in that way, that I, as a conservative, I prefer that I do have access to that platforms, but we need to keep in mind that they have a right to censor based on political viewpoint, based on, if they didn't like the color of my shirt, they could censor me. That's not the government's right to jump in and force a media entity to provide a bias-free platform or to disengage from censoring.
I reassured him I liked the color of his shirt. All right, maybe the Volcker Rule coming to Facebook? Probably not, but maybe it could work. Up next.